But did I do the thing? I did do the thing.
Indeed. That's there.
You know how they say you can't hear a picture?
Mm-hmm.
I can hear that.
Yep.
I can hear that subway.
All right, let's switch it over. And hello, everyone. So yeah, I still got to fiddle around with that opening to make it a little less abrupt. But it is Saturday. No, it's Sunday night. It's Sunday night. It's been 2 weeks, so I'm still a little off on everything. But we are here. We are here to talk about anime and anime stuff. For those new to the channel, this is a YouTube channel, a live stream where we talk about anime, old and new. My name is Brent. This is my fabulous co-host, Steve.
Hello, hello.
And almost burned my tongue. Did not. So we're off to a good start.
Always good.
You may have noticed my fabulous co-host, John, is not here tonight. We got a somewhat distressed message from John earlier tonight, letting us know that he had some tacos twice. Yeah, it came out the wrong way, so to speak. So yeah, he's not gonna be able to join us tonight, sadly.
Out the attic, not the basement.
Yeah, hate when that happens. But that
never
is
fun.
Kind of never fun in any way, shape, or form. No. A relief when it's over.
Yes, definitely.
But in the moment, it's just kind of 4-alarm fire there.
So send good thoughts to John.
Yes.
As he's recovering, as he's clutching the bowl, feeling the coolness of the bowl on his cheek.
As he's reaching for the sour milk in the fridge. There was some like Burt Reynolds movie where he's like deeply hungover, I think. And he goes in and he's like, oh, he wants something, and he pulls out milk from the fridge. And it's like gone way off, and I just remember, and it's one of those things where I have this visual in my mind, but it's probably not what actually happened. The camera is like underneath like a glass tabletop, and you just see milk just spew out over the tabletop. You're like, ooh, oh no, and it's just the milk, like he's not throwing it, but it's just anyway. Nope. What a great way to start.
I'm sorry. It's just like everyone's tuning in going, I thought we were going here for anime.
Why are we talking about this? Speaking of which,
I didn't come here with a vomit.
I've certainly seen anime that makes me want to vomit, but that's not what we're going to do tonight. Folks in chat, if you want to vote on this and give me your thoughts on this, I'm not going to actually put like a literal vote in there. But I thought since John's not here, and one of the fun parts of 8th MS Team is getting the perspective of somebody new to 8th MS Team, John being the new one, I thought tonight we could instead just talk about Gundam in general and do kind of a setting the stage kind of for everything Gundam, our thoughts on Gundam, and just kind of advice on where to get in on Gundam, what makes Gundam unique, all that kind of stuff. So if anyone has any suggestions in chat, we will just kind of vamp for a few moments here and see if anyone has strong opinions on that in chat. Or again, we can certainly give our thoughts on 8th MS Team 4 through 6.
Yep.
That's where we are tonight. Full disclosure, look at the news. There's not a huge amount going on in the world of anime right now. Granted, we are pretty deep in the season, so not a lot of like big announcement stuff happening at the moment. Starting to get some of those new anime announcements, but
when is the next
that's
season drop?
Great question. I will let you know momentarily. I think I scheduled our next. I scheduled our next anime watching party for like mid-October. So I think mid-October is probably where it's going to happen. It's another month and a half or so. Almost at the end of August, which is weird. The summer is flying by.
Yeah.
So before we go any further, let's talk about. It's been 2 weeks since we were last here.
Yes.
Steve, how's it been?
Not too bad. The reason why I wasn't here last week was I went to a concert.
Nice.
Concerts. Pre-pandemic, I used to go to a lot of concerts. Now it's like a concert. You know, you get to actually go to one and be around people and things, which is kind of nice. So yeah, I was down in DC at the Anthem and never been to that venue before. It's a lovely venue. And I saw two bands that I really enjoyed. The opening band is one of my all-time favorite punk bands called The Damned. And they do wonderful, wonderful punk music. If you haven't heard of them, you should check them out. Really enjoyed it. Rare instances of where fortunately, there was a few thousand other people around me, so I was drowned out. But, one of the few instances where I actually sing,
cool.
To the songs, which always delights the pretty lady who always gives me food because she always thinks it's funny when I get into things like that. But then the headliner band was Blondie.
Wow.
Blondie. Now you might be thinking to yourself, going, Blondie, well, she's been around for a while. And you're thinking of, Call Me, her big hit, the big hit and all that stuff. Deborah Harry, lead singer of Blondie, is 77 years old.
Wow.
And she rocked it. Like her voice was not, I mean, she, obviously with age, your voice gets, a little bit weaker. And after about 2 hours, her voice finally started to give. We're all just like, oh my gosh, she lasted this fucking long. Sorry, excuse me. But it was just really, so, we got the hits, we got Atomic, we got Rap, we got Call Me, of course, Maria, and, a whole bunch of slew of other stuff. And they had this great screen behind them playing pop icon things, like comic books and stuff like that that was relatable to what they were singing about, and also old footage of Blondie and of Deborah Harry back in the day. And they showed this thing called O'Brien, a clip from what was called O'Brien's television show. And a lot of you out there in Chatland are not going to know about this thing. This thing was kind of like CBGBs in that it showcased a lot of people who would go on to become like iconic. Blondie was one of them. Klaus Nomi was another. But it was just this old like public access TV station thing where they're just like, here's the camera and all you whack jobs get on stage and do your thing. And, some of the stuff that hit the wall stuck, some of it didn't. But it was just really interesting visuals. And at the end of the concert, I got this really interesting thing because they do a lot of they've been doing multimedia stuff with their music since the 70s.
Wow.
And so one of the things that they did for this particular tour was another comic book. So each tour, not every single tour, Blondie tour has a comic book, but
wow.
Yeah. So I think that visual for like for a lot of the stuff that was going on, like,
cool. Yep.
That kind of thing. So that's when that's where I've been. When I wasn't doing the concert, when I wasn't singing in my car or anything like that, I had been actually working on the next on-con panel.
Ooh.
About the Yamato. Both the real and the Star Blazers, if you want to call it Star Blazers version. So if you want to know more, guess what you got to do? You got to come to OnCon.
Exactly. That's very exciting. That's definitely one of the panels that excites me most for next OnCon.
How about you?
It's been a couple weeks. It's been a lot of a couple weeks. So
It's been a lot of couple weeks.
This past week at work, when I'm not gonna get into any details about like all that kind of stuff because that's what we're here for. But we onboarded a bunch of students at work, and it was our largest cohort ever, and I was very much involved in that. And we had one or two surprises that I kind of had to manage unexpectedly. So
Wow.
in the evenings, I was, switch off, just kind of relax,
Yeah.
order food, and just chill out. But the good thing was, by cutting down a lot of my other kind of project responsibilities, like I wasn't overwhelmed. So I was able to move forward on some things, including a project that I got really excited about a week and a half ago.
Ooh.
A particular topic that is relevant to all of us. There is a Japanese street performance that it turns out was very influential on both manga and anime, in the formation of both those media. It's called kamishibai, and it's a form of storytelling using picture cards that these kamishibai men, as they were called, and there were some women, but mostly men, would go from street corner to street corner and set up this little frame, and they'd have these cards telling a story, and they'd sell candy to the kids and tell a story. So I kind of sort of over the week I kind of built a kamishibai frame.
Ooh, look at that.
Where you can actually take a card and slide in and out, all that kind of good stuff. This is kind of a prototype, but this is basically how kamishibai would be done. There are much more there. So there was a Tokyo style and an Osaka style, if I recall correctly.
Oh wow!
Okay. The Tokyo style it was actually really cool. They had an integrated chest. So it was like almost like a I don't know what you call it, but it was a multi-level chest. The bottom chest would have all the candy. Bottom drawer would have all the candy in it. The middle drawer would have all of the cards in it, and then the top drawer would have, or top area would have the hyoshigi, the wooden clappers, and other tools. And then the very top would be the frame, which would flip up.
Oh, neat.
And then that would have like shutters on it, and so you would kind of open up the shutters. So that you needed that because if it rained,
right? Yeah,
you wanted to protect all the things. So they had the shutters on there, and so it would flip up and have that. In Osaka, it would either be detachable or it would just be this simple the simple frame that they would present next to. So kind of a simplified versus a more robust, if you will, more complicated thing. And so basically, you tell your story, and then you'd move the drawing, show a little more of that. A good example would be if you were telling a story about, say, a character who is moving. So with this, you can do things like represent movement a little bit by.
Oh wow!
Right,
okay.
And have her actually drive off. And depending on what's behind there, you could do cool things. They would figure out what would be on each card. And so you could say, if there's something you wanted to reveal in the previous card, you could reveal part of it, talk about that part of it, and kind of build the suspense, and then reveal the rest of it. So you can do some really neat storytelling stuff there. So I've been really getting into that. I've bought and read a bunch of books on kamishibai in the past week. And it's been really interesting to dig into this element of Japanese culture. Hopefully I'll have more. I might do a panel on kamishibai at some point in the future at a convention. I think this is a really interesting aspect of kind of Japanese culture. And again, so a lot of kamishibai, well, about 5% of all the kamishibai artists went on to draw manga post-war.
Yeah. I was going to say Shigeru Mizuki, who does Keikei Kintaro. That's kind of how he first started. Not first, but this is how he started making money. Right before and right after World War II, is he was drawing. So they would say, "Here's the story we need. So we need you to draw these panels." And it's almost like what's the term where they draw the panels for movies? Storyboards. Thank you.
Yeah.
Why did I blank on that? Oh my god. So it's like almost an early version of storyboarding. Also, and so Shigeru Mizuki would draw these things for these people, and of course you get paid like, oh yeah, great, here's a buck for your 12 panels. But no, that looks like a lot of fun. That looks cool. I mean, I'm looking forward to that.
It's very interesting. Gengen no Kitaro premiered as Kamishibai, technically.
Yeah.
It turns out they mentioned that at one of these things. I'm like, really? Kind of crazy. John, no John today, and I'm curious in the chat for those of you who joined us. John is enjoying a meal twice tonight. You know what I mean? Actually, enjoying is the wrong word. Experiencing. So unfortunately, he cannot make it and join us today. So we thought, depending on what you all thought, we could spend tonight talking about Gundam in general and kind of giving a whole context and history of an explanation of Gundam, and just kind of have it more of a chat, including you in chat if you all are interested, instead of doing 8th MS team. But if you all are like really like you want us to get into 8th MS team, we can do that instead. Let us know. So actually, real quick, I can show you all something about Kamishibai. So if anyone is interested, which I doubt, there is of the books available, there is one called Kamishibai Man, which is a picture book, and that you see is that wooden frame,
right,
the Tokyo style. And it's basically a picture book about an old Kamishibai storyteller who kind of goes back and reminisces about his time doing Kamishibai for kids and the whole experience and so forth. It's nice, and this is one of those things where it's like $4 right on Amazon. Like
right, yeah,
easy to get. I found this to be really cool though. This is Manga Kamishibai.
Ooh.
It's a coffee table book, and what's cool about this is they actually have the Kamishibai cards. Not all of them, but you get a good chunk of a Kamishibai story.
Oh wow, yeah.
In here, so you can actually see what's going on in the story, get all the visuals. Kamishibai was really interesting because it was hugely popular. In fact, the Japanese word for television was electrokamishibai.
Huh.
Yeah, that was their first word before they went to television. Well, by the end, you got Kamishibai like this.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
So yes, it's very interesting. I mean, you gotta respect them for like somebody paid attention. Like that's the Batmobile.
Wow.
They clearly had reference. But so a lot of cool images here.
Somehow I don't think royalty payments were made.
Unlikely. One other kind of interesting thing about this is Golden Bat.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so that's Golden Bat.
Oh wow.
Who is this weird skull hero. He's actually a hero, oddly enough. And he has all these adventures. Golden Bat came out in 1931, which is 4 or 5 years before the Phantom.
Oh.
He is technically the world's first costumed superhero. Because he has a cape, he has special powers, he runs around and does something. Also an awesome collar, but still. Like he predates all of the American superheroes, and he definitely has like superpowers.
Wow.
So that is kind of interesting. Now, another connection they made is he is not the first caped and costumed hero. Do you know who that is?
I do not. Who is that?
Zorro.
Okay, that makes sense. Actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Secret identity, secret costume,
Tim.
runs around, does stuff, but no superpowers, obviously. Batman Sama. That's funny. So that was again interesting connections to things going through there. So if you're curious, there is some fun stuff out there. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk Gundam. Let me just throw together a quick little thing. You know what? We'll just do this. Let's talk Gundam.
Let's talk Gundam.
Let's see here. So, as we often address this, Steve, what's your experience with Gundam? What's your exposure to?
So my very first Gundam was War in the Pocket. And
Wow.
And I loved, and still do, War in the Pocket. As a matter of fact, War in the Pocket is still in my top 10.
So how much anime had you watched at that point?
By that point, that would have been about the time that Sci-Fi started throwing anime up. So, because I think that's where I caught it. So by that point, it was definitely videotapes. And,
sure. Okay.
You know, let me get my walker and my hearing aids out and all that.
But you'd seen some anime.
Yes.
So the idea of like serious war stuff wasn't completely
right. Yeah. So like before that, it would have been like, well, actually, no, here's what it was.
Okay.
Here's the segue. So, you know, obviously the old 70s anime, Speed Racer, Aquaboy, blah, blah, blah. A little bit of Lupin thrown in there.
Cool.
And then, you know, Voltron, which we all know from the 80s, right? You know, that's the first, like, really big one in our area. But what really got me into Gundam to make me want to watch this was, of course, Macross.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, it was Robotech, but
yeah.
So I was just like, oh, mecha, because I enjoyed the mecha aspect of all this, and Macross, I'm very familiar with, and then I'm watching this thing, this War in the Pocket, and I'm watching it, and by the end of it, I'm like. I'm like, with a single tear going down my eye, and I'm like going, I'm like going, oh my god, this was so good. And then a couple of years later, then the real big push of Gundam came into onto cable and all that stuff. But yeah, so that was like really the first one, and then of course the second real Gundam series I actually really watched was that's right, folks, Gundam Wing.
Nice.
And that was when I had to go. Something's different about this show than the other.
Also, let me get a notebook.
Yeah.
this guy, and this person, and this faction.
This yeah. And then that's when I kind of learned a little bit more that there's the Universal Century, and then there's all the everything else. And this was part of the everything else. And then, of course, going into the various different things, like the really bad Gundam one, where it's like the guy had the really cheesy tagline.
This hand of mine burns with an awesome power. It is telling me to defeat you.
Yes, exactly.
I love G Gundam, but
anyway. So I suffered through that. And then I watched this thing that I think is technically part of Gundam Universe, or kind of technically part of Gundam. And now I'm blanking on the name of it, but it was, I call it the Robo Vacuum ad that lasted 10 episodes. And it was definitely like Zeon was named.
Okay.
Gundams are named. It's not Van Dread. It was another one, but it was so awful. It was so bad. I was just like, oh my goodness, what is this? It's so bad I can't remember the name. So then
Gundam Force.
No.
Okay.
No. For the life of me, I can't remember the name.
Yeah,
and that's probably a good thing because I don't think anybody should watch it. It's that bad. Like G Gundam is like so much superior to that. That's how bad it is. Anyway, so then I went into then of course periodic episodes of actual Mobile Suit Gundam.
Okay.
And then, then as things started coming down the pike about individual like little things like Unicorn Gundam or kind of like the Char's counterattack and things. And it was Gundam by that point was so well known that you didn't really need to know the series. You didn't have to watch the series to get the idea of who these people were. For the Universal Century. And then, of course, there was all the model kits that I never actually got into, but, the people I knew, they're just like, look at my diorama.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And and then, of course, one day you said, hey, have you actually seen the entire thing all the way through? I said, no, I haven't. Let's watch it. So for a month we did that. And at the end of it, I'm like, it was great, but oh my God, it was a slog. Holy crap. So, and then, of course, the rest is history.
So my first Gundam was Gundam Wing, which is a heck of a way to get into Gundam.
Yeah, no joke. Jeez.
I'll tell the story again, which I've told a few times. I started watching Gundam Wing Midnight Run.
Yep. With
a friend of mine. We would get on ICQ. Do you remember that back in the day? I still remember my ICQ number, which is weird.
Oh, wow.
But as we get on chat, and the problem was we started on like episode 20 of Gundam Wing.
Oh, geez.
We had no idea what was going on. We would have Gundam Wing, and that was immediately followed up by an episode of Dragon Ball Z Frieza Saga.
Oh, God.
So you would get like 24 minutes of condensed plot soup of Gundam Wing, of just faction versus faction and this character and all that kind of stuff. And then like 24 minutes of powering up one attack.
Coming. Meanwhile, in Gundam Wing, it's just like, and so we will take on the 38th faction of the 48th Socialist Paratrooper Group in Oz's. You're just like, what? Who are we with today? I don't know.
The great thing was it was in a sense perfect because we had like 24 minutes to unpack.
Right.
Gundam Wing. Okay. I mean, I know what's going on in Dragon Ball Z right now. So we watched that all the way through, and then they started again. They started Gundam Wing, from episode 1, and so we watched through not all the way through, but we got back to where we were before, and that was. I loved it. I don't know why, but I absolutely adored Gundam Wing beyond all reason.
Wasn't bad.
Oh, it
wasn't bad at all.
Gundam Wing is a really fun, cool show. I don't know why I got into it that way. Completely the wrong way to get in. But I was just fascinated by all the characters and all the various stuff. I think it also helped. I was into anime enough that I wasn't put off by all the weirdness, all of the pretty boys, the weird female characters. There's some attempts at strong female characters that sometimes go really well, sometimes go written really weirdly. It's a big stew of things.
So when I watched Gundam Wing, one of the first things that made me go, oh my God. Okay, yeah, I'll still watch it, but oh my God.
Yeah.
When he meets Relena at the school, because it's always at the school.
Yep.
And she hands him the invitation to the ball, and he just goes, rips it in half, and you cut back to her still frame, like, and I'm like, okay, I guess if you're 14, that's something, but
so I had the great opportunity to watch that episode in a Gundam panel with several people from Bandai watching it. They were doing a big thing about Gundam. They got to that moment and the audience cheered. Because it is such one of these iconic, like, that's the moment. Like, we all remember that moment of what the hell is going on here?
God, I mean, but the thing of it was that, and what threw me was that all the different mecha styles that were being thrown at you like week after week, and it wasn't in the vein of, oh, this is the new thing that has to be defeated. It was just literally just like, okay, we're underwater this week, so here you go. We're in the sky this week. Okay, we're in Saipan, so we're gonna do a Saipan Gundam mecha thing. Here you go. You know, I mean, did they ever keep up with the model kits on that one? I don't even
Oh
know.
yes. Oh
Jeez.
yes.
It
Gundam
was
Wing is
nuts.
it was a very mecha driven show, toy driven show. Yeah.
No joke.
Um,
But I think what was hooking a lot of people was
Mm.
not just the Hiro Yui Relena storyline romance, because that's a thing.
Hiro.
Hiro
Relena.
Relena. Was the whole thing is the whole concept that basically they're 14-year-old terrorist pretty boy
Yep.
terrorists coming
Yep.
to Earth just to rain havoc.
Absolutely.
And that's literally what these guys were.
Mhm.
And Hiro Yui is the most sociopathic of them all.
Oh,
And, you know,
100%.
and I just love how, like, at one point during the series, I don't think this is a spoiler,
Mm.
where he goes, okay, maybe killing all those people was wrong. So I'm gonna go to their family members and give one of them a gun, and then I'm gonna apologize and say, if you want to shoot me, shoot me. And so at the end of a couple episodes, it goes on like that. And you're just like, one of these days, someone's going to go, okay, sure.
Hero's got some damage.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, I mean, the opening credits of him like blowing stuff up and then looking down at like a shredded teddy bear or whatever, bloody shredded teddy bear, and I'm just like, all right.
Well, and I agree. And, like, there's a lot going on in Gundam Wing. One of the things that I think is really brilliant about it is that it throws so much stuff at you. Again, teenage terrorists and various factions in the world, and like the world hasn't quite figured out what to do with mobile suits and all that kind of stuff. And you get on board with what Hiro and the others are trying to do, and they're revolutionaries for the colonists, and then they get played around like episode 8.
Boy, do they
blow up the wrong people. Again, no spoilers, and they realize it's not that easy. It's not that simple. Like we've really got to rethink what we're doing, and it just goes in all of these interesting directions of, okay, what am I actually doing?
Right. And like the only one that had his head screwed on somewhat tightly was the desert one. What was his name?
Katra or Winner.
Katra? I think it was Katra.
Yep.
The blonde one, right?
Yep.
And so he actually showed up with a unit. Like all the others just showed up by themselves. He's just like, oh yeah, this is my guard, my personal guard, So he actually had a force behind him. Mm-hmm. And for so long in the series, he's just like he's just kind of like the ones where he's the one that went up to like Duo Maxwell, Death Sai, and Hiro Yui, and just go, I know you want to murder everyone. Take a moment, deep breaths, okay? Yeah. Okay, Hiro, think of Relena. Would she like this? No, she wouldn't, so don't do it, okay? No. But, and then, like, about almost towards the end, he just goes, and he just starts slaughtering everybody. Like, he gets into was it Gundam Zero, right?
Yeah, Wing Zero comes in.
Yeah.
Not to get the spoilers, but yes.
And he just goes into this other territory. Now, but we still haven't talked about the little annoying pretty boy terrorist, Wu Fei.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Boy, can he complain. His mecha's not mecha, it's just this armor of complaints.
Well, I mean, it's also his wife.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I love about the show, though, too, is you get in, you're like, okay, Hero's nuts. Hero's just completely off his rocker. And then you realize what's going on with Wu Fei, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like there's a depth here. Like it goes way worse than that.
Yeah.
So I started with that. By the way, Katra may have issues because also of his 29 sisters.
Oh yeah.
There's a whole thing. But so I watched Gundam Wing, loved it, and then went back to watch other Gundam. Watched original Gundam because. So here's a fun thing. When Toonami released Gundam Wing and Gundam Wing was hugely successful, Bandai and Sunrise were like, great, cool. It is the rise of Gundam in North America. So we're going to show all the Gundam. And they require that their next thing is going to be original Mobile Suit Gundam. And so they showed Mobile Suit Gundam on Toonami, and nobody watched. Because it's from 1979, and that show does not look like a modern Gundam series. But I watched it and I enjoyed it, and I could see it for what it was. And then went back and started going through all the others. And this is back when you couldn't find a lot of Gundam.
Right.
So at the time, I had to watch a lot of stuff, fan subbed, torrented, that kind of stuff, just to get through it.
Yeah, and that's why I only was able to get it piecemeal, because you literally they'll go into Sam Goody or whatever, and instead of having because you could find Dragon Ball, excuse me, Z, 1 through blah, blah all at one time if you really wanted it, but then you like Mobile Suit Gundam, disc number 28 and episodes 13 and 18. What happened to the others in between? I don't know. Yeah, there you go. So yes, that's literally how I got it, through word of mouth and oddly enough, AMVs.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
ton of AMVs.
And I think and that's what we're talking about. I think it's one of the interesting things about Gundam is I think a lot of anime fans are aware of Gundam without having ever actually seen a Gundam series. They've seen an episode here or there. They've seen an AMV. They've seen bits and pieces. They've been exposed to it. Yeah. But it's fairly uncommon for the average person to go in and watch.
Right. Yeah, no, that's very true. If you were to walk into any convention and just start talking Gundam, like the Mobile Suit Gundam, and you say Amuro Ray, odds are somebody's going to go, oh yeah, the guy he's the first one to pilot the Gundam. Okay, got it. Yeah. And people would actually know that because it's such a talked about thing in these days about it, and largely due to Gundam Wing. And but can you imagine that? Well, actually, you can, because you did it where you actually saw a non-Universal Century Gundam and then went into Universal. Century.
Yeah.
For me, I was kind of like a skip hopscotch kind of thing. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like nobody doesn't know what that is.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is that I think by this point, because it used to be, especially when I first started going to cons and so forth, if you talked Gundam, people assumed you were talking about Wing.
Right.
They knew other Gundams existed, but that was the primary Gundam series in North America. Now I think that's over. We've had so much exposure to things that folks have, I think Amuro Ray, I think even Iron Blooded Orphans, some of the recent stuff, I think folks, have that idea better. So Cygnus in chat is saying, his first was G Gundam, and G Gundam was really popular back in the day. That was on a heavy rotation on Toonami. And people really liked it, partly because I think G Gundam, Gundam Wing as well, but G Gundam also fits very much the action cartoon format of Toonami.
That was shonen. G Gundam was shonen. I mean, that was
hardcore. It is very Dragon Ball Gundam. People make the joke. That's basically what it was. I do love. There's a scene later on in G Gundam where they have to send a bunch of Gundams to space. And so they take a bunch of rockets, and there's literally animation of Gundams,
I missed
holding on to rockets as it's going up. And it just, and as the director said, this was not meant to be a hard sci-fi Gundam series.
Right.
That's a whole level. But yeah, hold tight.
Yeah. Can you imagine that if NASA did that today? All right, we're gonna go to the moon. Strap the astronaut on with a bungee cord. Yeah, there you go. Good Lord.
And it's one of the other interesting things about Gundam, I think, too, is you think Star Trek, right? And Star Trek is a much more controlled franchise where, yes, each of the series are quite different, but you don't get, there is no G Gundam of Star Trek. There is no, Gundam Wing of Star Trek. So you have this wild disparity where you can get into a particular variation of Gundam and then not have mainline Gundam really work for you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I only think it was until, was it last year or the year before that you and I watched Mobile Suit. So, and like the most complete I had of that was actually Gundam Origins, which I saw in 2017 Otakon. The last Otakon was good. Otakon. Never mind. So, and Origins was kind of interesting for me because by that point I still hadn't seen most of original Gundam, but it gave a lot of context, and it gave me a lot of context for a character I would later come to really appreciate and really like and enjoy, which is Ramba Ral.
Yeah.
And I was so happy when you pointed out when you played that episode of Gundam Build, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And Ramba Ral, and it's a different Ramba Ral, but Ramba Ral goes, "Oh, here's what you want to do with your thing," and it's like, "Oh yeah, it's Ramba Ral." But yeah.
One of my favorite parts of that the Gundam Build franchise is that Ramba Ral is kind of a main character in the franchise, and it's clearly just because everyone's like, "But he's awesome, so why wouldn't we just have him in our show the entire time?"
Right, exactly. It's Ramba Ral. I mean, come on. Yeah. I mean, when everyone in the Zeon forces goes, "Oh, he's a Raw Paw member of the Raw family." Like, yeah, but it's Ramba Ral. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, he's really good, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Dozel even says, he goes, "No, we want Ramba Ral because he's a good leader of men," and like the rest of the Zabi family is just like, yeah.
And it's so cool because there's a character where in original Gundam you have all these different characters you're getting introduced to, and there's always your kind of enemy of the week, your various folks. You have your Garma Zabi and all these various plot lines, and Ramba Ral comes in, and he obviously has a major part to play. It's a multi-episode arc, but he could be just another one of those, but just people really latched onto that character because he is such a decent guy. I think one of the things that makes Ramba Ral different, and it speaks to Gundam in general, is that Ramba Ral isn't a flashy anime character. He's not, he doesn't have the crazy hair or whatever. He's just a decent guy who's a really good leader who just does his job really well. And everyone respects him for that, on both sides of the fight. And so to see the fans react to that, and then to see that respect move forward into kind of the origin where they're like, okay, no, we're going to feature this. We're going to really show you all the details of what happened here. It's something that I think a lot of other franchises don't do because, your characters have to be unique and weird and remarkable and so forth and so on.
Yeah. And in Mobile Suit Gundams, or I'm sorry, in Origins, the first movie really is about Ramba Ral, and a much younger Ramba Ral, and his involvement with actually Char and his sister, and what he does, and how he dealt with things, how he dealt with people, and it was just, you like him even more, and you're just you just kind of you kind of do the what if in your head, and you're just like, what if he was on the side of the Federation? Right. What if he was actually a commander of White Base and was Amuro Ray's commanding officer? What if that happened? Jesus Christ, the war would be over in like probably a couple of months. You'd probably just wipe the floor of everybody.
And it's one of the great things about Gundam in general, I think, is it does such a good job of presenting war as this conflict that breaks out and people fall on one or the other side of this line.
Yeah.
And you see what happens. And that doesn't make this side evil or that side good. And it doesn't make that one side more or less skilled. You just have this variety of folks. And if things had worked out a little differently, and if that person happened to be there at that time, everything would have changed.
Yeah. And Ramba Ral actually drives a point home in Mobile Suit Gundam, the original series, of basically saying, here's this really good guy, good, decent guy that people respect, that you, the viewer, respect.
Yeah.
And he's fighting for the Zeons. And then that drives the point home of like, okay, this is a nasty war. Not everybody is a baby-eating monster on the bad side, right? Here's you have this guy who actually is just like, I'm a soldier and I'm doing the thing, and I make the right decisions, I do the right thing, I take care of my people,
Mm-hmm.
blah 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 blah. But I'm trying to take over the earth.
Yeah.
It's like why?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a very interesting point that he drives home with his character.
Yeah.
And but I will say, and not to no, I'm not gonna say anything. You're gonna have to.
Okay.
You guys are gonna have to watch it. I just like how his story arc is concluded in the way that
Yes.
it's that you at the end of it you're like, yeah, that's how it should have happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think that drives home a larger point about Gundam fandom in general, which is the kind of people that are attracted to Gundam. I think are the folks who are looking for that level of quote unquote realism.
Yeah.
And I say that not to say that people who don't like that or don't want that are not looking for realism.
Children.
Because
no.
there are absolutely times when you want Flash Gordon. Right.
Exactly.
I love that stuff. But there is that kind of, again, it's we get into World War II stuff where it's like, man, if that offensive had failed, everything would have changed. And it's real people making real decisions.
Right.
I think really, really colors a lot of that. HMS team has been very much like that. Of these are just people out on there doing that thing. I think Double 83 is very much that.
Oh, Jesus.
Boy.
War in the Pocket. What to say about War in the Pocket? 6 episodes. 6 episodes. Caught it on Toonami or Midnight Runner or whatever it was, and it was for the time nicely animated, and and it was just, and it's oddly not mecha heavy.
Oh, not at all. Absolutely.
Right.
There's very little.
There's actually, when you actually look at the total amount of time of mecha action versus what's going on over all 6 episodes, you're like, really? That's it? And this takes place on a side or a station. In the Gundam universe, the colonies are these big, think Babylon 5, like tubes, and, with hundreds of thousands of people on them. And this is on a side that is neutral. They're not taking a side, and so things are kind of going on there, a little bit of espionage, and the Zeon is trying to figure out what's going on in there. And this is where you get the concept of, okay, the Gundam is not a super weapon. It is a better weapon than what's out there, but it's not the super weapon. And they're still making mods on it, and that kind of thing. And this just happens to be one of those mods, the modified Gundams. Yeah. And so it goes through the story arc of a Zeon team that gets there, the one surviving member of that team who is probably should not be there at all, and really likable. Again, a likable guy. I mean, this guy is really likable.
Arguably the protagonist.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Right. Exactly. And he develops a relationship with a boy who lives on the side. And gets him to help him navigate the side and do what he needs to do. And they come to a discovery of what's going to happen. Again, I don't want to give spoilers. And to your point, it becomes the protagonist that says, "Oh, we can't. We can't let that happen. But if I do this thing, then that thing won't happen. And that thing is that he has to take out the modified Gundam." So, and then by the end of the series, and this is again where it draws it, and the opening credits is very interesting because it shows the kids drawing with chalk on a sidewalk, mecha and battles and things. And these are kids that are just imagining and fantasizing about all this, and war, and oh wow, it's this thing that's happening outside of their scope of knowledge. So they think of it this way, and then you get to the very last scene of this series, this 6-episode series, and at the end of it, you literally just go.
And That's worth saying, and obviously we're not going to tell you what happens in that last scene or
Yeah.
anything like that. But it is worth noting that this is one of those series where you will watch the first 98% of it and think, okay,
Yeah.
cool. What are they talking about? And then in those last like 60 seconds, you'll be like, got it, gotcha.
Yeah. All wrapped up in a tiny sobbing bow.
Yep, absolutely. But no, and that show is so interesting because it is kind of meta. You know, it is very much, and so we should address this. One of the things that I know Tomino, the creator, has been very kind of frustrated by is the fact that Gundam is an anti-war story. And not just like thematically. Like he said, no, we were complaining about World War II. Like we were talking about issues that we really were concerned about as Japanese people. We were discussing things with this show. And we wanted to show how terrible war was. And the fandom reacted by saying, that's really cool. Show us more.
Yeah.
And we're like, that's not really the point. The point is
Right.
you shouldn't want more of that. And so the fact that the kids in War in the Pocket, they love war in a way. Like they find all this stuff really cool. I love like early in that first episode. I think a mobile suit like descends near them, and the kids all go, "Oh, what what model is that? It's that. No, it's that. It's definitely that
right.
model, And they just get they're really excited about this, and they see different pins, and like they've got all that stuff, just like plane spotting in in World War II.
Right. And at that point, as you're watching this, and the kids are actually literally having this like little friendly argument about what this thing is coming down the sky, and you're like, it's going to kill you. One.
Yep. And obviously that is saying something. That is a message. So yeah, and I think War in the Pocket is definitely one of the Gundam series that is most impressive for kind of all those layers and that kind of stuff. But then you have stuff like Wing, you have stuff like 00, which also is very, 00 I think does a good job of combining the some of the sort of over the topness of Gundam with being more relevant, with being more serious. The main character is a former Middle East child soldier.
Yeah.
In an anime that came out in 2007, I think, like a couple years after 9/11. Like it was very topical.
Yeah.
And like the stated goal of their organization is to end war forever.
Yeah.
And the show exploring that, like, okay, this is what happens when you try to do that.
How horrific can we get?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of being horrific, so when you watch Mobile Suit Gundam, the original, and keep in mind it's 1979 animation.
Yeah.
So just keep in mind that when you're watching it. And I'm going to talk about the suicide scene. The girlfriend, right? And when she jumps off the top of the mecha, Garma's girlfriend.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's this scene where she falls to her death. Now you go, okay, well, that's part and parcel of this series is there's a lot of death in this. There is a lot of death in this series.
Yeah.
And you go, what's so special about this? And it's just like, well, you get to see it.
Yeah.
Like it's crudely drawn, but you see it.
Yeah.
And it her head
absolutely
impacts the ground. And I remember watching that with you, just going, okay, she's dead. Okay, no, wait, I don't need to see. Wait, all the way. Oh, we're watching the ground stopper. Okay, great. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. So the original series is meant to be like you're saying, Tomo. No, this is supposed to be horrific. This is supposed to be bad and messy and awful and whatever. And we're doing it. And meanwhile, one of the Amara Ray who is watching this is someone who is quite possibly on the spectrum. and there's a lot of things he's not getting. And of course, and here's the odd part about all this Gundam series is that so many of these people, so many of the heroes are children, child soldiers, and think about that for a moment. For these series where you're just like, the war has gone on so badly for everybody that they're bringing in kids because they don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's something like, I actually wanted to talk about MSO8 tonight on episode 6 was just like when you realize like how young everybody is.
Yeah.
Or at least one of the characters is. And you're just like, oh. Oh.
Yeah. And in fairness, like to be clear, like in a lot of Gundam series, the pilot kind of accidentally, ends up in the Gundam. But even there, like it's not like, and people will say, what's this kid doing in there? But it's not like, kids can't pilot mecha. Kids can't pilot mobile suits. No, like that's fine. Like they have no problem with that once it happens.
It's a thing. Yeah.
And there are plenty of references in Gundam to when you see Seed has definitely teenagers out there in the jungles doing counterterrorism stuff and all that kind of stuff. Like it's very much a thing.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. And the reason I was making faces is because there's a lot of sacrifice in original Gundam. And there's a lot of people taking things out in a very personal way.
Yeah.
But it's not presented like that. Like you see the heroic scream and then you cut outside to the explosion, right? It's not, as you say, no, we watch it happen. You're absolutely right. It's really interesting. I think it's something that Gundam does unusually well is be able to represent those moments. And I mean, it should be pointed out, and I don't think it's a spoiler, in Tomino's original concept for Gundam, 2/3 of the way, Amuro would die off.
Yeah.
And the crew would move forward and finish the story without him. Tomino's point being, because that happens in war.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that is that is telling.
Yeah. Well, the other things that make Gundam so grimdark, and and think about it, when in 1979, what else was out there? Anime land, like
Harlock, Galaxy Express,
stuff like that. But you had, like, you saw, like, there's that great scene where Amuro is taken, where he goes to the cafeteria because he doesn't eat because he's a freaking child and he's having issues.
Oh, yeah.
And so his lady friend, takes him down and he goes, you gotta eat. He sits down and he starts eating. He looks across and he sees a mother and a son, and they're both looking away. And there's another guy that looks at the kid's plate and steals the bread. Steals the bread off the kid's plate. And Alvaro's just sitting there going, "What?" He literally says, "Why did you let me see this? Why am I here? Why are you doing this?" But it's just it's just those things where it's just like, we want to present to you war is hell. So here's this 2x4, and we're going to repeatedly smack you in the face with it for 40 plus episodes until by the end of it, you're going to be like, fine, no war. No war. Great. Thank you. No war. No more.
And one of the reasons I think for Gundam's longevity is because you get to see so many different angles on that. Yeah. You have kind of the Grimdark original Gundam. You have the tonal shift of Double Zeta Gundam, for example, which is overall lighter in tone, but has very dark moments and some darker themes and sacrifice and other things going on in there. But where Tomino was like, okay, now I know it doesn't have to feel dark all the time to still have that storyline going through. Then you have Gundam Wing, where you have
which is
just
completely different.
But it's also without getting some very nice characters do some very terrible things in Gundam Wing, and you just feel really terrible about it because that's a thing that can happen.
And wouldn't it have been more horrible if they, at the end of it, decide we're going to give up warfare and we're going to become a boy band.
Should have happened, but didn't.
By the way, I remember the name of the awful
mm-hmm.
series. It's called Pilot Candidate.
Ah, yeah, not Gundam.
Not Gundam, but it's called Pilot Candidate, and they refer to the human race as Zeons, and that their home planet is Zeon, not Earth.
Oh, okay.
But they have like nods to Gundam.
Oh, gotcha.
But I still think it's a big ad for Roomba, but that's just me.
Big ad for cat girls, I think. Yeah, and it's also interesting because, again, kind of like Star Trek or even Star Wars, Gundam also has the advantage that the deeper you go in, the more you see the themes and the more you see the references. You know, watching Gundam Wing and seeing Zex Marquis and going, what the heck is going on with this character? Or Troa. Not Troa.
Yeah. Or Trey Kusanada.
Yes, thank you, Trace.
Yeah.
And then going back and watching Char and going, right.
Got it.
It's that trope.
Yeah.
But then seeing, again, 00, you have the Char clone there, who's a very different take on that. And he's just more of just a really good pilot who goes off and then ends up, and this is not a spoiler, but ends up like saying, okay, no, I'm focusing on this thing I'm doing and be really good at that and do that. And so he's not the big political leader in the same way that Char is.
Right.
And you have something Gundam Unicorn,
right,
which is very much exploring what does Char Aznable mean as a symbol.
Right.
You know, can you have somebody who feels, and so for those not familiar, you know, Char is this, Char has this vendetta.
Boy, does he have a vendetta. Jesus.
That he follows the Mobile Suit Gundam, but then later on in the story, in later series, he becomes kind of a symbol of leadership for Zeon. And he becomes kind of, everyone rallies under Char because of everything that he is. And in Gundam Unicorn, you have another character show up who seems to be like the second coming of Char. And it's like, it's that power of leadership, that power of hero worship, that people, that just knowing there is somebody out there with that name who kind of sort of fits is enough to get everybody into another war again. Like, holy smokes, people, what's wrong with you?
If you're blonde and willing to wear a mask 20 out of 24 hours of the day, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
You too can have your own space colony with which to wage war.
Exactly.
And yeah, but Char is very interesting because in Mobile Suit Gundam, he is, you know, clearly a conflicted character.
Yeah,
and it's very obvious that he is not in total line with what the Zabi family of the Zeons are doing.
Definitely.
So, you know, he's definitely not, you know, you get right off the bat, it's not a spoiler or anything, that he has no love for the Zabis.
No.
And it becomes more and more and more evident as the series goes on, by the way.
Yeah. Well, actually, so you say that, but then his relationship with Garma.
Yeah. Well, So you have this guy, and you know you're trying to piece together what he is doing. Why is he wearing the mask? You know, what does this thing mean? He's a really good pilot, and then you come on to understand his leadership skills and also his manipulation skills. And and you know you're just like as I was watching it with you, you're just like, okay, watch what he does with this. And I'm like going, oh my God, he just manipulated an entire battalion of people. Jesus. All he had to do was say one sentence and then suddenly 500,000 people just died. Holy crap.
He's really good.
He's really good at it. And so then when you watch Gundam Origins, you get more of that story of him. And I don't want to say too much because there's that connection with another character that I don't want to talk about. That you should watch in the series, Mobile Suit Gundam. but you see more of the vendetta. You see how big his vendetta is.
Mhm.
Like the thing is just freaking huge, and he is a child when he kills his first person.
Yeah.
And the way he does it, and the way that
Yep.
he is capably able to do it, and he
Mhm.
understands that he's capable of doing it, and he's very capable
Mhm.
of the skills involved. And then his evolution, again with his relationship with Garma, where he at the very beginning, at the outset of it all, he's just like, this is how I'm going to play it.
Mhm.
I'm going to be this guy's friend.
Yep.
I'm going to get
Yep.
this guy into the thing,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
he just plays everybody.
Mhm.
And you learn where the mask comes from, and it's kind of an honest to God dippy reason, but yeah, it's literally a sports
It was
mask.
it was silly in original Gundam. They found a way to make it marginally less silly in Gundam the Origin.
Origins, right? Yeah, it's like, oh my, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but you get an idea of like how deep seated this thing that he wanted to do, and you realize that he makes mistakes.
Yep.
And his first attempt to bring everything down, because that's his goal, did not work. But it set the stage for his next phase, which he was able to do. Imagine everything happening just because you're pissed.
Yep. Yep.
An entire war that almost killed off humanity was because one kid got pissed.
Yep. Fortunately, that doesn't happen in real life.
No,
But yeah, well, what's fascinating is that Char is not a sociopath.
Right.
Like a lot of other media would treat this as like he's this serial
insane
killer, insane guy. But no, he's like, no, this thing happened, and it has to be made right. And what's even crazier is he's kind of right.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, that's the other part of it. Is that at the end of it, you're just like going, okay, humanity almost died, but I can't be angry at him. Oh.
Yeah. It's just really fascinating. And again, like he's one of the things I love about Char is, and this comes up really well. There's a scene in Char's counterattack where he's on a basically a subway on a colony discussing something with other people. And they finish the conversation, and a flower gets passed up to him, and he takes it, and he looks, and he takes it, and he turns, and there is an old woman on the other side of the subway car who is selling flowers, and she's like a flower seller. She's going from one place to another, and she smiles beatifically back at them, and she says, "Sig Zeon," and everyone in the car starts going, "Sig Zeon, Sig Zeon," and the entire crowd fills up this because they realize Char is on the other side of this. And, the final shot is that kind of going away as Sig Zeon goes over. And you realize that's the problem, right? That's,
right.
Gosh,
Yeah.
just everyone's just obsessed with this. And it's so fascinating because Char realizes this and knows there's kind of nothing he can do about it.
Right.
And there's just there's this hero worship going on, and his kind of place in history is unavoidable. And so he does something about it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we should also mention Zig Zeon for those who don't know.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So Mobile Suit Gundam was very much, as has been pointed out, an allegory of basically World War II and the bad mistakes that were made.
Yeah.
And, in this conflict. And the Zeons are, interestingly have Prussian style or Austrian style World War I uniforms, but the politics are very much Third Reich. And they make very good. The Zabi family, which are the bad guys, make very good use of deaths of members of their family. And one of them, it gets a really nice speech. And Garen Zabi, who's basically the leader, for all intents and purposes, leader of Zeon, he ends the speech, and for the first time you hear Zig Zeon, and you know what that is. That's right, right. and Seagal, and it's
Mhm.
just this chilling moment.
Yeah.
Where here you have this series that's talking about, okay, it's grimdark, but it's anime, and and things happen, it's cartoon, and blah 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 blah, Zig Zion, and you have this visceral reaction, just like going, this is a cartoon, what's going on?
Well, and to be clear, like, I don't know, 10 episodes later or so,
yeah,
the leader of the zombie family is like, you do realize you're evoking Hitler, right? Like
yeah.
you know this, and he's like, and Garen is, his reaction is more or less, the guy has some interesting ideas.
Well,
and the leader of zombie is like, it did not end well for him. Like,
no.
You're insane.
Well, the conversation starts with, because what Garen wants to do is like kind of the beginning of the war, where they show, in the beginning of each episode, a side being dropped on Earth, on Australia.
Yeah,
and
an entire space colony.
Colony as a weapon. They evacuated the colony and sent the colony to try to force Earth into surrendering, whatever. And so Garen wants to do it again because the war is starting to not go well for the Zeons at this point. Just on the cusp of just like, maybe like Dozel's the only one that's like going, guys, I think we're in trouble. Dozel, who comes off as the dumb one, is actually the smart one, and he's just like, I'm not sure about this.
Yeah,
poor Dozel.
Poor Dozel. I have such
anyway, so Garen wants to drop another colony on Earth again, and he goes, and as he's talking about it, and he's talking about evacuating another colony to do this, and he goes, and just in case we have, he tells his father, the leader of the zombie family, he goes, and I have this list of people who should get off first as opposed to last, and these people we don't really care about. If they happen to stay on the thing, then whatever, we don't care. At that point, the father is just like, who looks evil as hell. This guy is like, you take one look at his character design, you're like, oh yeah, evil. And he goes, son, my son, you're talking like this guy Hitler? Oh, you mean the guy from the history books? Yeah, that guy who killed a lot of people because he was a pissy little boy. That guy, yeah. Oh yeah, he has some really interesting ideas. Oh, that's not what you say. That is not what you say. So they go into this conversation about Hitler, a very short conversation.
Yeah.
Garen turns around, walks away, and the zombie family, head of the zombie family, sits there and goes, and Hitler lost the war.
Yeah.
And that's the point he was trying to make to his son the entire time. It's just like, it's not going to, what you want to do because you're basing it on this guy, is not going to work because that guy lost.
And what's so fascinating about it is Zeon is visually presented as, and as you say, kind of politically structured or politically aware, the way the Third Reich was.
Right.
But they are also in many ways very much like Japan in World War II, of having this monarch on the throne that's not really involved in anything, extremely involved generals who are kind of running everything, regardless of what the emperor says, right? Who's kind of this figurehead. Zeon is this small nation seeking economic independence from this massive power, technologically advanced power, which is very much how Japan represented itself in World War II. And so it's again, I think it's one of the reasons that makes Gundam so enduring is because they didn't just, tear a page out of the history book and say, this is what we're duplicating. They said, we're going to make it complicated. Like, we're going to make this a lot of things going on. Because again, we don't want a cartoonish villain. Not that Hitler is cartoonish, but there's so many things that can make this simple. Let's go deeper.
Yeah. And it's and also to that point is what's very interesting is that and this isn't just to Mobile Suit Gundam, but there's the amalgamation of different nationalities and ethnic groups within Zeon.
Yeah.
So it's not just white bread, blue-eyed blonde people. It's actually Russians, Slavics, you name it. It's in that nation. It's just what they identify, and that's part and parcel of like this power structure. Is that it's what they identify with is not so much as who they are, but what their political beliefs are. And the Zombie family exemplifies those beliefs and says, we need to be independent. We need to be separate from all this stuff because we are Zeons. We are collective. We are united, and we should be independent. We should be united in this effort. And then that's kind of when you can kind of tell that Garen's lost his mind a little bit. Well, not a little bit. He lost it completely. Whenever you want to drop a colony on Earth, you kind of lose perspective.
Yeah.
But he's starting to talk about who doesn't matter and who matters.
Yeah.
And that's not what the Zombie family is about.
Exactly.
They're actually not about that. They're not about genocide at all. As a matter of fact, the head of the Zombie family, who looks evil as anything, actually goes on to say in Gundam Origins, he's just like, this is not how we should go about this. This is not the right idea. This is not the plan I had. The plan I had was going to be slower. And it was probably going to be another generation before we could do what we want to do. But we would have gotten there. But, these things, but because of what, again, Char was able to do with Garma, kind of precipitated everything.
Yep.
We say poor Dozel. Poor Dozel.
Poor Dozel.
Poor Dozel.
And again, to your point of creating a character who's one of the bad guys, and by the end you're like, no, please, just go to a happy place, please. Just retire.
Yeah. And the sad thing about Dozel is what you learn is that he's buffoonish, he's crude, he's a hulk of a man. He actually knows what he's doing with the military and loves his family. Loves his family. And I don't mean just his brothers and his father and stuff, like his own family. When he has, when he's so happy at the birth of his child, of his daughter. He's so freaking happy about this. And there's things that he really just gets absurdly happy over and he really cares about.
And it should be pointed out, in what appears to be a very patriarchal family.
Yeah.
He loves his daughter to death.
Yeah. Loves her. Like he will move the sun and the stars for this girl, for this little girl.
Yep.
And and like I said, he actually kind of knows what he's not kind of, he does know what he's doing in terms of the military. And that's why they kind of leave it all up to him, because he actually, and that's and when in the series, when he turns around and he says things are not going well, that's when everybody, as the viewers, stop for a moment and go, oh, we just got a tonal shift here because this guy just said, I think we're about to lose lose control of this. And it's kind of interesting because he is portrayed as a very large and loud and almost a bully. Or kind of a thing, very powerful, personally powerful, like strength and whatnot. But you get to see this side of him over and over and over and over again, how his little sister's being treated, Cecilia, and what happens with her, and how he feels anguish over this. Yeah, that his little sister's turned into this little monster, and by the end of it, you're just like, he has an opportunity, as you said. He has an opportunity, he doesn't take it. And you're just like, no, it's okay. It's okay. Go, you and your family, go to the asteroid. Go to the asteroid. Be happy.
Yeah.
Go.
Well, Dozel, we've all known the big bear of a guy. Yeah. The guy who's, 6'5" tall, really muscular, and thus always has to be. I'm reminded of a interview with a professional wrestler, I think it was Hulk Hogan, about Andre the Giant. And somebody said that there have been some stories about Andre the Giant of saying some unkind things at times. And Hulk Hogan looked him in the eye and said, well, I will tell you one thing about Andre the Giant. I don't think he was ever comfortable a day in his life. Nothing ever fit him. He was always he looked different from everybody in the room. And so he had to respond to that. He had to act differently with everybody just because of who he was physically. That's Dozel. Dozel is the big, bulky guy who has a bit of a short fuse, but he's not a bad guy. It's just he's very emotional. He wears his emotion on his sleeves. And so when that comes from a 6'5" whatever guy, it's overwhelming and intimidating.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't from somebody else. And so Dozel has that effect on people, but it's not his character to be that. And so you're absolutely right. It is such a sad story because you realize, oh, this is a guy who, if he hadn't been born into this absurdly political family, would have been the Rock. He would have been the everybody would have said, oh man, Dozel, I value your perspective. I value all this kind of stuff, but wrong place, wrong time.
And one of the things in Gundam's Origins is that you actually get to see the one brother who is only mentioned because he's dead by this point in Mobile Suit Gundam, but you see his death in Mobile Suit Origins, and it's precipitated by the fact that he slaps Cassilia, backhands her actually, and Dozel just goes, "Do you have to do that?" And that's the first instance, like in the origin movies, where you just go, "Oh, wait, he's not going to do that. That guy's not going to do that. This other guy's going to do that, but the guy you would think who would be offhand, just like, shut up, woman." He's just like, "Why did you have to do that? What to what purpose? To what purpose?" Exactly. And of course, he was supposed to die in that bomb. And he was supposed to die, but because he's Dozel,
doesn't get that easily. Now, Josh asked an important point in the chat 15 minutes ago about Turn A Gundam.
About who? Oh,
Turn A Gundam. And it is true. So Turn A is technically set in the future of all Gundam series. And I'm not going to get into why and how, because that's part of the joy of watching Turn A Gundam is seeing how they make that work. But Turn A Gundam it was the 20th anniversary Gundam series, and it was the last all hand-drawn, hand-to-cell animated Gundam series. And so it was very much meant to be this kind of reflection on Gundam as a whole. I love Turn A Gundam partly because it was Tomino returning to the franchise. And he basically says, look, I've explained that I don't like war, so I'm going to give you a 50 episode Gundam series with no war. There's mecha, there is fighting, but it is not your typical Gundam series. And it has this fascinating tone to it, this fascinating approach to its storytelling that makes it unique, not just in Gundam, but I think in anime in general, just its overall feel. But also because of the stories it's telling, because of the characters it's got, and because of what it's trying to tell you about the human condition, about how we should behave. Speaking of characters, Laurent, the main character in Turn A, is just a supremely decent young man. There are no hang-ups. There's no surprises. There's no weird... there's obviously a few little surprises there, but you are able to, in a very uncomplicated way, respect Laurent and be willing to model yourself off of his actions in a way that you rarely can with anime protagonists, particularly in shonen. And again, I think there's very much Tomino saying, no, we're going to tell a story about the good people now, about the people who are trying to do the right thing, and trying to do all that, surrounded by some people who are not and who are going in the wrong direction.
Yoko Kanno did the
one of her best. And a full symphonic score from Yoko Kanno. Imagine that for a second.
The good stuff.
Oh, jeez. I listened to the soundtrack first. I found a copy of the Turn A soundtrack, actually the Turn A concert, listened to that obsessively for weeks, and then watched Turn A Gundam. And that's a weird experience.
Well, you know what's interesting is I've never seen Turn A Gundam,
Yeah.
but I know the score
Mm.
because, well, you know, I obsess about Yoko Kanno, so there's that.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the few composers to compose both Gundam and Macross.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
she
right.
did Frontier.
Another good soundtrack.
Oh, yeah. Frontier is one of the few, to go off to Macross for a second, Frontier is one of the few anime series where I will listen to the vocal tracks as well. Like all the pop music in there. Like it's not only like really effectively built pop, but it also ties into the characters and kind of all that kind of stuff. Oh, good stuff.
Pure Yoko Kanno gold.
Mm-hmm. Turn A is also interesting because it allowed Kanno to be a little more experimental. If you listen to some of Kanno's like just albums, like
Right.
not anime stuff, but just music she comes out with, she does some really weird experimental stuff. And you get some of that in Turn A, the stuff with the coming of age ceremony, all the chanting and some vocalization kind of stuff in there. There's some really neat stuff in that soundtrack.
Yeah.
In general, I'm actually a fan of a lot of Gundam soundtracks. Gundam generally has some really good music.
Well, no, that's actually true. That I think Gundam has gotten to that point. The Gundam has the larger picture.
Yeah.
The attitude of it's almost like Cowboy Bebop. It's like, well, if we're gonna do another Cowboy Bebop, whether it's live action, a movie, or whatever, soundtrack's got to slap.
Yep,
it's got to slap. And Gundam's got I think is at that point where it's just like it may not be iconic, but when you hear it, you're just like, okay, this feels Gundam. This feels what it should be like. And generally speaking, they do a very good job of throwing it out there. And being a music file myself, it's kind of interesting because you can almost tell what's Universal Century and what's not without having to look at it.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is now, what was it? How does it work between Universal Century and all the rest?
Oh, right. So
yeah. I forgot about that. How exactly that works.
So original Gundam is set in the Universal Century timeline, UC0079, and as time went on with more of those Gundam series, through Victory Gundam on TV and then Char's Counterattack, F91 and such, the franchise was considered to be a little bit. Give me 1 second. Hold on. I just realized something. Sorry. I may be having some interesting internet issues.
Oh.
Hopefully it isn't affecting anyone, or some CPU issues. I had Genshin Impact running that entire time.
What's that?
I had Genshin Impact running for the past 3 hours. So I've been having a video game running in the background for that entire stream. Anyway, it became very difficult to tell more stories in the Universal Century timeline in that universe without jumping forward decades, because you just can't have a military-industrial complex reboot every 5 years. Right. So UC started feeling a little crowded. Sunrise, the studio that made Gundam, then got bought out by Bandai, the toy company that sold the Gundam toys. And Bandai decided, and I'm paraphrasing, they said, we think the solution here is to come up with new timelines, new stories that are still Gundam, but that aren't set with Zeon and Amuro and all that kind of stuff. So we can kind of reboot the whole thing, but we can still make things set in that timeline. So what they decided to do in the mid-90s is they commissioned 3 new Gundam anime series in 3 completely different timelines, for the TV, while also commissioning OVAs set in the original timeline. And those were G Gundam, Gundam Wing, and Gundam X. After Gundam X. I'm sorry. New Mobile Fighter G Gundam, New Mobile Report Gundam Wing, and After War Gundam X have to be correct. And so you had those three. Obviously, G Gundam found its audience. Gundam X did not find its audience, which is a shame. Love Gundam X. And Wing was real popular.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Real well. So that was the thing. So they realized, okay, that's kind of the template. We will occasionally do a new Gundam TV series with whole new characters, whole new timeline, but there will still be mecha, mobile suits, Gundams, some concept of a, mobile suits are the mecha, the Gundam is the super advanced mecha, all those kinds of things, some kind of war in space. But we can kind of reinvent that, but we will do OVAs and movies and miniseries and such set in the Universal Century timeline to kind of keep that fandom, those touch bases with it. Now things have gotten even more complex because we have the Gundam Build Fighters and the Gundam Build sub-franchise, which is set in a version of the real world in which Gundam is a franchise and they play with toys from Gundam. Right. So they are all interacting with basically a video game, toy-based video game using Gundam characters. So that's its own kind of weird element of it. So it's kind
very
of parody,
meta.
Very meta, kind of a parody, kind of a reference, kind of a in-universe joke while also telling its own storyline. John in chat says he recently watched Gundam Hathaway. Interesting, you watched that. Went into history. That's cool. Yeah, I need to watch that too. The Hathaway was a Hathaway Flash. I think it was the original novels that I think Tomino wrote that told this side story that was kind of legendary for a long time, considered one of the great Gundam stories. Recently got animated, so it's really great to see that come to animation and do that because it ties up some things around some of the storylines around some of the characters.
Gotcha.
Including Bright.
Oh,
yes. Hathaway is Bright's son. His Hathaway Bright is the character. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's a whole thing. And again, layers, man. There's so many different things in Gundam. Oh, and that character shows up here, and Dozel's daughter becomes a thing. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
What was the one? What was the manga? The manga? I think it became a short OVA. The one that I read in your place, Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt. Thank you.
Thunderbolt. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a big one. I was talking about that at work recently.
Oh, really?
We brought in this new cadre of students, and we had a icebreaker event basically. And so I was in a chat room just talking with folks about things. Anime came up and Thunderbolt came up and somebody said, I watched this thing. And I was like, okay, I have to explain. Here's my experience, but I came to
hang on. Here's the flow chart.
So I don't think I overwhelmed them, hopefully. Try to turn them to anti-fans, John, beware of tempting me to talk about Genshin Impact.
What's that?
John in chat is saying, next time talk about Genshin Impact. Oh boy. We'll be here the rest of the week.
Oh God. Oh God. It would be the stream that never ends.
Yeah, it would be. Especially if John were here.
Show. Well, we talked about for a good hour and a half before we went out on stream. Mm-hmm. Yeah. About
so.
Anyway, see how easy it is to switch.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. So that's Gundam. Again, we'll coming back to talk more about Itma's theme later.
Yes.
But we can tie that off there. That's actually an interesting question, though. So, John and chat, and chat in general, I would love to talk about Genshin Impact. I'd love to talk about that. How do you want us to talk about that and format that?
Because trust me, we can just go from thing to thing to thing to thing very easily.
Yeah. What do you all want to know
Yeah.
about this anime video game that we love? Because I can definitely find a way of coming into that and going into it. Because the nice thing is, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it is am not a gamer at all, and this is the thing that made me buy a new laptop so I can actually play the damn thing, because I tried playing it on the other laptop and the other laptop just said veto, no.
And one of the great things about Genshin Impact is that it is freely streamable, so we can show you anything you want to know about this game.
Yes,
and it's a game that is very analyzable. Like, we can go into detail about storytelling, about how to get across things, how to do stuff. The writing in Genshin Impact is really interesting because a lot of times, like, the individual dialogue is kind of meh,
right?
But then it comes together in these really amazing ways. Or Tenchi Muyo. Yeah, we can also talk about all the Tenchi Muyo timelines. That is also a thing that we can.
Yeah, get the flow chart. God, I love it, but dear Lord, it is a thing.
Absolutely,
it is a thing.
It's actually a great idea. I would not mind doing
Tenchi Muyo. Yeah.
Yes.
When's the last time anybody did a Tenchi Muyo panel?
Man, forever. That is a dead franchise, my friend.
Yeah.
Sadly,
we need to bring it back.
We do. What would be your go-to introductory Tenchi Muyo anime? What would you have somebody watch to turn them into a Tenchi Muyo fan if they've never seen Tenchi Muyo before?
I would actually have them watch not the OVA, the other one. The 42.
There are a lot of other ones.
The 42 episode one. That has Kione. Yeah, Tenchi Muyo Universe. Simply because it has some additional characters in there, and then once you finish that, then watch the OVA, the original OVA, because the original OVA is very packed.
Yes,
very packed, and it's only what? How many episodes?
6.
6, yeah.
But
it doesn't feel like it.
Ooh,
it doesn't feel like it at all. And like when you get the episode when they bring his nephew in, and you're just like going, "Thank you, I need to breathe."
No, I completely agree. Tenchi Universe was going to be my answer too. Start with the TV show. It's a little lighter in tone. Like, there's still all the stuff is there, but it's easy to follow. It's really fun, and there's some. Boy, the ending is good. And the ending also ties into the movie in a way that is unexpected.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Which is really cool. They wove a few things into the TV series that they can kind of pay off in the movie. But you don't have to watch either.
See how easy. So, folks, see how easy it is to get us going.
Franchise. That would be an interesting panel, right, in and of itself. Franchises you may have missed. Revitalizing those old franchises that nobody watches anymore. But it's like, no, there's a lot of
stuff. There's a lot of good stuff out there.
Absolutely. Wow. Sorry, brain fart. Kashan? You know,
I still think it's hilarious that you got into it. So my whole thing was like, oh, hey, there's this cash turn thing that I watched, and he was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll give it a try. He gets sucked into the rabbit hole, and then he comes out and it's just like going, I can almost see the middle finger coming by.
Yeah.
I was just like,
and Kashan had the advantage. It is such a product of its time.
Yes.
That you can go in and go, okay, I'm going to get a very specific experience out of this.
Boy, are you.
It's like going into World Masterpiece Theater show. It's like,
yes,
okay, I'm going to get, a sappy little, kids adventure story. It's fine. Josh wants us to talk about Lensman. I would love to talk about Lensman.
What is there not to say about Lensman?
I know. Granted, I have not seen the original.
Really?
I've seen the Lensman movie, but
Uh-huh.
that's an
But you haven't
adaptation
seen
of
it,
like all
right?
the
Yeah.
there's OVAs. I've never gone back and watched all of that yet.
Wow. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. I think it's on Manga TV.
Okay.
Roku if you guys have Roku, I think it's on there still.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure it's on Retro Crush. No, it has to be on Retro Crush. Yeah.
I'm going to check Just Watch right now to see if they do not list it. That sucks. That's surprising. It is not on Just Watch, which says something.
Yeah, it's a thing. It is a thing.
Yep.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I would love to go back and watch the original Lensman one of these days. I watched freaking Captain Future, the golden age sci-fi hero reinvented in 1979 in anime form. If I can watch that, I can go back and watch Lensman, which I read the books of all things. So,
Oh wow, okay.
Oh yeah, do I still have? I did at one point. Probably not anymore. I don't know. I do have. Okay, I'm going to flex for a second.
Uh-oh.
So back in the day, I was able to find. Look.
Ooh.
This is the original release of the original Gundam novels that Tomino wrote. The ones where, spoiler alert, Amuro dies. They were eventually re-released. This is the copy from 2004.
Wow.
Which was hideously expensive to buy. I think I spent $50, $60, something like that on this. It's $14.95 on the back.
Oh.
And so I bought it, and it got like $75, $85, $95, and then the re-release came out. And it's like no one cares anymore. But that is how much of a Gundam fan I was. I went out and found this thing.
Wow.
Like, I want to know. I have to know.
Wow.
One of the 20 copies they printed. I very much doubt that had a massive fan base back in the day. But all right, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes to talk about more recent anime stuff.
Yes.
Again, we'll leave just kind of the room mics on, so in case you guys hear some stuff in the background. That is what's going on there. That is totally fine. But we will.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, do I have? You know what? We'll just do something chill for a second.
Right. Oh yes. There we go.
Will be
your inner Zen.
Exactly.
Yes.
And now your moment of Zen.
We shall be back.
Exactly. Fortunately, John, I never fart. There's something to clip. All right. Come back. Oh. Nice.
Brought to you by.
Lovely. One of the cool things in the new region in Genshin Impact is that as you're wandering around, you will see occasionally people just like on the side of the street just practicing dance moves. And they're just doing this lovely kind of Tai Chi there. And it's just nice to look at. So I think what we're going to do, we're just going to, y'all know it's coming. Let's just do the thing. Y'all hear that? Oh, right. Thing. Hold on. Thing.
Thing.
Back to the. There we go. Welcome to the latest anime news for the week ending August 28th, 2022. Got some kind of weird news for you. We'll start here. Love Live Superstar Season 2, Episode 8 has been delayed until September 11th. Due to COVID-19.
Still a thing.
Production schedule changes caused by the spread of COVID-19. So a screening event that would have covered episodes 5 to 8 will now cover only episodes 5 to 7 instead. But they're going to stream a, quote, special stage reading video and recap of Season 2's episodes 1 through 7 on YouTube.
Okay.
Which is cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Obviously, good on them for doing whatever they need to do for all the medical stuff.
Right.
But just not what I expected to hear.
No, not at all.
I guess what would you do? Like if there was some medical thing, if half the staff caught COVID suddenly.
Well, it's probably better than what Uzumaki's doing with his thing, that the anime we're supposed to get on Toonami that's never going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
It's an apology video going, I swear it's coming. It's coming. At least this is something for the fans, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I guess if they're doing if they're basically bringing the actors in to do a stage reading of the script, then at least you kind of have an idea what's going on in the story.
I guess, and if you're a big fan of the voice actress, this might be a screen moment for you. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Entirely possible. Mm-hmm. But it gives me ideas of maybe doing stage readings of I don't know, Higurashi.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me. Grave of the Fireflies on ice.
Oh God. Oh
Let's get that out of our heads.
no! Please.
Let's get out of our heads with just some sort of general. Let's do an anime announcement.
All right.
There's some new anime coming. I Got a Cheat Skill in Another World is coming to TV as an anime. Full title in English is I Got a Cheat Skill in Another World and Became Unrivaled in the Real World 2. Kind of an interesting isekai twist. A door to another world stretches out before a boy who's been brutally bullied all his life. This alternate reality grants him access to all sorts of things like cheat skills and a portal that lets him travel between his old and new worlds. Can this class loser turn his life around back home? So apparently he learns stuff in the isekai world, jumps back into the real world, applies that in the real world. Back and forth.
I see so many bad things.
Somebody likes it. 1.5 million copies of the book franchise in circulation worldwide. The 11th light novel just released, and the manga's 3rd volume shipped on March 10th.
I guess so. I mean, I hope it's not. This isn't going to be like one of those revenge kind of thing.
Yeah.
I hope it's more like. I don't know what I hope, but I hope it's not a revenge thing.
Yeah, we've certainly got some worrisome revenge stories in the past. Let me just check to see if there's anything new. Same author as The Fruit of Evolution.
Okay.
Which I'm not familiar with.
I'm sorry, what was the title again?
The Fruit of Evolution.
Fruit of Evolution. Okay.
Main character is in that one is overweight and bullied. And then his entire school is transported to a isekai video game sword and sorcery world. He accidentally eats the Fruit of Evolution.
Oh, I remember this one.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, he changed his appearance and he actually looks like he slims down. They slim him down, and then the first episode is him figuring out that he has to level up and everything. And meanwhile, his classmates are trying to navigate the world. And he becomes this like uber overpowered thing. Gotcha. But okay, I remember this. Cool. Yeah. So I don't think it's going to be a revenge. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Hopefully, definitely doesn't feel like it. Let's move on to some just sort of general anime news for now. So, Spy Family, the manga, has 25 million copies in circulation. Not copies sold, but copies essentially made. It has more than doubled in the last year.
Nice.
So the anime's worked.
Yes, indeed.
Good for them.
Indeed.
1 million copies in November 2019, 2 million in January 2020, blah, 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 blah. 8 million December 2020, 10 million June 2021, 21 million in May of 2022. So good for them. And we now have confirmation. The anime's second half is coming October 1st.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So we have that to look forward to. There's a very adorable illustration of Anya and the others done especially for that to announce that. Presumably we will have more stories in the more story around the school there. So looking forward to that. Let's move on to some other stuff. The second live action Full Metal Alchemist Netflix movie is coming out September 24th. Full Metal Alchemist: The Final Alchemy.
Okay. So I saw the first one. And it restored a little bit of hope after watching Death Note and the live action version, Netflix American version of Death Note, which was anyway. Aside from the wig problem in the movie, it was actually pretty pretty enjoyable, entertaining.
Okay.
I would say that if you had a chance to watch it, go ahead and watch it. Just try not to get distracted by the wigs. The wigs are pretty bad. But beyond that, it was actually, I wouldn't say it was perfectly in line with the anime, either version. But it did the trick. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought it was okay. So I would probably watch this. I would probably watch this. Yeah.
Cool. Good for them. They can make it work.
Maybe the wigs will be better.
Maybe it looks be better. Maybe they figured out the wigs. Let's see here. Shall we go? Yeah. There's a new UFO robo-grendizer project in the works. There's a video teasing it. Project G is what it's part of for next year. The executive producer is Go Nagai. Nagai himself is executive producing this Grendizer project. UFO robo-grendizer was the third installment of the Mazinger giant robot franchise after Mazinger's D and Great Mazinger. The original Grendizer was from 1975. Was then part of Force 5 in America back in the day.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a new Grendizer project coming from Go Nagai. Good for him.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see how involved he'll be. How involved he needs to be.
Can he be?
No.
How old is he now?
Good question. According to the internet, let's see here. He is 79?
Wow.
1 in 45. So what's my math on that?
77.
Is 77.
77, yeah.
And granted, Tomino is 80.
Yeah.
Miyazaki's up there too. So I guess he's, in that range.
Yeah, perfectly capable then.
Perfectly capable. It is hilarious pulling up his ANN page. Original creator of 5,000 things. But yeah, good for him. Hopefully that works out. I do feel like Mazinger is one of those franchises that, like Gundam, like there's so much.
Right. Yeah.
There's so many different series, and I have no idea. Fortunately, I doubt there is as much crossover and
right. Yeah.
stuff. Probably gonna do whatever you want. The Association of Japanese Animations is an industry group that launched this past week a website called Anime Taizen, which means Anime Complete Works. It is an anime database commemorating the 100th anniversary of anime. The first historical record of animation in Japan is 1917. And so they're commemorating that. The database includes details, including release dates, staff, and voice actors, for about 15,000 anime.
Oi.
Been since 1917, and you can search by keywords, names, and dates. Unfortunately, all Japanese. For us.
Yeah.
Still,
I would have hated to have been, hey, Bob, the intern, we got a project for you. No!
Mm-hmm. The website had to shut down for the first 24 hours because it was too popular. So it got kind of blown out the first time. They opened it as a trial back in October. It's been renovated and updated since then. So that is quite interesting. And the operator says they want to make it a comprehensive database, partly because some information has disappeared over time. Like there's a lot that does vanish. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Seriously, how many interns died for this project?
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll soon see the anime behind the making of.
Well, it's funny because, like, in English, we have a bunch of these, right?
Yeah.
Like, we have ANN, we have AniDB, we have all these different things. My anime list. And And it's interesting having an industry association group try to say, okay, no, like there needs to be a more or less official database. I hope it can work. I hope it becomes a resource. I don't know. I guess for me, I feel like I don't know when I would ever reference it.
Yeah, why? Is the question. But having said why, if I think it would probably serve better if it was a thing that said, and here's the anime that disappeared over time that we found. Because that I would be interested in seeing, because if it's something that we could actually look up and watch, that would be actually really kind of cool.
Definitely.
If only I could read Japanese.
And I guess there are a lot more relationships that can be documented, because the association can potentially know this person worked with with this person on this thing and all that kind of stuff, and there was this relationship between these two companies, whatever. There's some interesting associations possibly there. Thankfully, if you want to go there, it is very easy to remember. They managed to snag animedb.jp as their domain name. So there you go. Easy to remember, animedb.jp, and you've got your anime database. Let's see here. A few other quick notes. Section 23 Films is going to be releasing The Wings of Honeymise in 4K. Oh, yeah. So the...
Can you imagine that in IMAX?
Oh, gosh. The box will include the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray disc and a regular Blu-ray disc, plus a disc of bonus material. They're collaborating with Bandai Namco to release the Japanese special edition box currently in North America and Japan on November 4th. So that's cool. We will get that at the same time as Japan.
Nice.
It'll include English subtitles and an English dub. Interestingly, no notes here on which dub. If it's a new dub or whatever. There will be it'll include an audio version of the pilot film, which has not yet been released on Laserdisc, on high def, plus background music and a document file. To give you an idea on how seriously they're taking the remaster process, Hiroyuki Yamaga is overseeing the remaster process. He was the director.
Wow. I want it.
Yep. They're using an original 35mm master print, and they'll have they will have a theatrical screening, probably in Japan. Which features the original audio track. Here's the cool thing. Bandai Namco Arts made the announcement of this on March 14th, 2022, exactly 35 years after the movie premiered. Wow. Well done.
Yes.
Well done. Dang.
God, it's a good thing I'm not rich, because I gotta tell you, I would be... Here's the Gearhart IMAX theater. We show nothing but anime. There you go.
Yes. So I do have to make one addition to this, which is in the description. So this is perhaps the most 1980s thing.
Yeah, it is.
1980s note to make about this. The film premiered in March '87 in Japan. Its initial premiere was actually in Los Angeles a month earlier.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Featuring an English dub by Go East Productions, but it's America. You can't call it The Wings of Honeymise. They titled it Star Quest. Star Quest.
I've got this stabbing pain in my abdomen right now. Oh God.
Oh, that is just I love that. I love that in every way.
Oh, dear Lord.
A few other just notes, kind of for fun to finish things out. The Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime from Studio Trigger is coming out September 13th on Netflix.
Nice.
So if you're interested in that, just a couple of weeks away for Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Sadly, we should point out that Motomo Kiyokawa passed away from pneumonia at the age of 87. He was an anime voice actor, probably best known for playing Kozo Fuyutsuki in Evangelion, Gendo's right-hand man.
Right.
Also played Walter in Hellsing, Temrei in Mobile Suit Gundam.
Oh, okay.
So Amuro's father in Mobile Suit Gundam. Shime in Time of Eve. Tippy in Is the Order of Rabbit. Norman Berg in Big O. Dr. T in Gungrave. And Gargoyle in Naughty the Secret of Blue Water, among many others. So sad to hear. In more positive news, the upcoming Royal Shakespeare Company stage version of Mandarin Totoro has announced its cast.
Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not so much.
Can you imagine Patrick Stewart doing that?
Patrick Stewart as the Cat Bus.
That's right. Yeah.
Full disclosure, I'm not familiar with any of these names. It should be pointed out, May Mack, who played San in the stage version of Princess Mononoke, is playing May in this. So that is pretty cool, especially because of the name thing. May Mack, May. Yeah, very, very cool. So a bunch of puppeteers from puppeteering Jim Henson's puppets as well. So hopefully that will come out well, and hopefully we'll get some cool photos out of that.
Yeah,
it does seem like a kind of thing that would work pretty well as a stage play. That's all the news for this week. Thanks for watching. See you next week. The line is back.
Yep.
Line is back. There's not a lot of history this week, I don't recall. I don't think. Was there some history? There was some history. There was some history. There was a thing.
There was a thing happened.
History.
A thing
Definitely. Happened. Absolutely. Let's talk about this. Welcome, everyone, to This Week in Anime History. No. Welcome, everyone, to This Week in Anime History, where we talk about things that happened this week in anime history. And this week, like 6 days ago, but it still counts.
Nice.
At the Daikon Sci-Fi Convention, Daikon 3 premiered. The Daikon 3 animation. This was a celebratory animation by a bunch of fans celebrating anime and science fiction. And it was a whole bunch of different things all thrown together. It had some production issues, but they got it out there. They were then a little disappointed it wasn't as good, so a few years later they came out with Daikon 4.
Dun dun dun.
The classic Daikon 4 animation, which is a celebration of all things, including ELO.
Yes. Electric Light Orchestra.
Gotta love it. An absolutely iconic thing. And so, those fans went to form Studio Gainax.
Yes.
Much of them. So it was really the launching of Studio Gainax by a bunch of fans making a thing. It's funny that has never really caught on in America.
Yeah.
I know Production IG has done a few things for Otakon, things like that, but the idea of producing an animation specifically for a convention it doesn't seem to be a thing over here.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah,
or maybe it's about the monies.
Yeah. John in chat, you're absolutely right. I missed a thing about Eurocamp the movie.
Oh, that's right.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Hold on. We're not going to go back and add it. I mean, what can you do? News. Laid Back Camp movie has at this point made 1 billion yen in the Japanese box office. That is about $7 million US, but still impressive. Especially after only 2 months after opening, it has sold 690,000 tickets.
Wow.
It opened at number 3 on its first weekend, and made 350 million yen on its first 3 days. So, good sign for Eurocamp.
Yes.
I am hoping it will mean good things for that franchise moving forward. Of course, everyone reprising their roles. I like good stuff. Let me turn off that banner. There we go. So I have a question.
Oh.
What did we learn on the show tonight, Brent?
Nailed it.
I learned we can have a great time talking about Gundam.
Oh, yes.
Probably should not have been surprised by that, but that was a lot of fun.
Yes.
And let me see here. Yeah, there was. I also learned that Isekai is not dead yet.
Not quite dead yet.
Which we exactly only resting. Which perhaps should not surprise me, but it is definitely a thing. And I also learned that people care about Genshin Impact, which makes me happy.
Yes.
Steve, how about you?
Nice. I have learned, much like you, I have learned that we did not have to eat, sleep, or go to the bathroom. We could be talking about Genshin and or Gundam or both at the same time.
Yep.
For the next 72 hours. Easy. No problem. I'll just call and work and just go, I quit. I have to talk about Genshin and Gundam. Come on. I've also learned, I have learned that as we were talking about Gundam, we did actually, between the two of us, just the two of us, accumulated knowledge on it independently of this gargantuan thing. Mm-hmm. So can you just imagine what if here in America, because I'm sure it's happened in Japan, but what if here in America we did just a nothing but Gundam Con? All Gundam.
Oh,
just
man.
That's it. That all Gundam.
Oh.
Everything that has to do with Gundam. So like all the different series and it's fine, but that's it. Just all Gundam. Just all Gundam.
Could you do a one-off convention?
I don't see why not.
Yeah. Why couldn't somebody say, hey, in 2023, there, August 10th or whatever,
right?
You can bring everyone together for one time only for one giant Gundam Con. That'd be awesome, man.
3 days of panels. Oh, could you just oh my goodness, what if you were able to get Tomino in there?
Dang.
Yeah. I mean, that would just be the event, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Absolutely.
Now, how do I make money off of it? No, I have learned that I have learned that when we talk about Genshin, we're gonna have to come up with some type of structure because we're just gonna be talking over each other. I like this part of it. Well, I like that, and the thing over here. And meanwhile, people in chat are just going, "What are they on about?"
We need a end of round bell,
right? Yes. Have somebody sitting going, "That's enough. Next topic. Next topic. Stop it. Next topic." And lastly, I have learned that I am glad Back Camp is doing so well.
Yeah.
It reminded me actually of the VR experience that
I
had at your place with the thing, and my one and only VR experience with the anime. But I'm glad it was a good anime. Yeah. And I've learned that there is so much out there to talk about that we could easily take a subject like Gundam and talk about it for an hour and a half with no problem whatsoever, and have people involved in coming in and saying, "Ooh, yeah," which is always a nice thing. So thank you, Chatland.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, chat. It was great having you here. It was great being here. We'll be back next week to talk about Gundam With the MS Team episodes 4 through 6, which is where the plot starts to really ramp up.
Yes, it does.
And we start seeing some things happen in that anime. So look forward to seeing you there for that. Again, thank you all. Hope you guys have a great week. Until next time, watch more anime.
Yes, do papa.
Oops. Wrong thing. There we go.
Bye. Bye, Mr. Cat.